America's very first inauguration of George Washington as president was 236 years ago. Donald Trump's second inauguration will be the 74th time a man has taken the oath of office as president. Lisa Fletcher has more inaugural trivia.
This is a carriage from Ulysses S. Grant's second inauguration.
Claire Jerry is a curator of political history at the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History in Washington, D.C., and shares the strange and little-known history of Inauguration Day.
Has Inauguration Day always been held on January 20th in Washington, D.C.?
It has not. George Washington's first inauguration was in April in New York City. They had not settled on a capital city yet. His second inauguration and John Adams' inauguration were in Philadelphia, the new national capital, in March. And then once Washington, D.C. is built, the inauguration moves to Washington, D.C. And it was held in March until the second administration of Franklin Roosevelt, when it was moved to January, the date that we have today.
So speaking of George Washington, he was the first to have an inauguration, and there was no blueprint for the ceremony at the time.
They looked a little bit to some of the models from England, which was what they would have known. There's no constitutional requirement for an inaugural address, but Washington gave one, so everybody else gives one.
You mentioned that presidents had been inaugurated outside of D.C. Have any taken the oath of office outside of D.C.?
Lyndon Johnson first takes the oath of office on a plane where President Kennedy's coffin has been loaded. Calvin Coolidge took the oath of office in his family's living room, administered by his father, who was the Justice of the Peace.
Which presidents gave the longest and shortest inaugural addresses?
William Henry Harrison gave the longest inaugural address. It's over 8,400 words, probably took about 3 hours to deliver. Wow. The shortest inaugural address was George Washington's second, 135 words.
Which was the first inauguration to be photographed and filmed?
The first photograph we believe that exists of a president taking the oath of office is James Buchanan in the 1850s. The first inauguration to be filmed was William McKinley.
But the common brotherhood of man.
Calvin Coolidge was the first one on radio.
You, Harry Truman.
Harry Truman, the first on television. And Bill Clinton, the first on the internet.
Does the outgoing president always attend the inauguration?
Does not. John Adams did not attend Thomas Jefferson's inauguration. It had been a very, very contentious election. They had been very close friends.
How has the role of first ladies changed in the inauguration?
The balls certainly are something we tend to associate with first ladies. Dolly Madison starts that tradition. When we think about glamorous inaugurations, people's minds go immediately to Jackie Kennedy, to Nancy Reagan, because they were women of such elegance and such grace. But what I love to think about the inauguration is that it's this moment of transition.
I want to thank my predecessor.
The candidate is transitioning from a candidate of one party to president of all the people. And the inauguration really both celebrates and I think makes that a very serious moment.
And while the flourishes change year to year, century to century, the core of the inauguration, central to America's peaceful transition of power, remains unchanged. For Full Measure, I'm Lisa Fletcher in Washington.